And let's generate our motivation and think that we will listen and contemplate today so that we can overcome the distortions that anxiety and fear cause in our minds. And we want to do that so that our minds will be more receptive to generate compassion and wisdom. And then with that mind of compassion and wisdom, seeing that Buddhahood is possible and ourselves generating the motivation to attain full awakening so we can be of the best kind of benefit to all sentient beings. So contemplate that, and let's make that our motivation for being together this afternoon. Okay, so after that nice meditation Venerable Nima led, everybody probably feels pretty calm, and you're going to hear a talk on fear and anxiety when you're calm. My goodness. Okay, but hopefully you'll remember what we talk about, and then if at some later time fear and anxiety come up, then you can apply the antidotes that we discuss. So first, the question arises, where in the Buddha's discussion of what's to be practiced and what's to be abandoned, where do anxiety and fear fall? Okay, I think they go with the afflictions. In other words, the things that we want to abandon that are part of the second truth, the cause of our samsara. But they aren't listed particularly in the low rig text, the texts on mind and awareness. Yeah, you don't see one that says fear or one that says anxiety. So we have to remember that the mental factors listed in the low rig text do not are the sampling of those that are most important for us to identify if we're going to become Buddhas. But many of the other ones are like branches or of the ones that are listed. So fear and anxiety, I think, are very much in there, but they may not be noted in a very, explicit manner. The word fear comes in the Tibetan teachings. We often hear it, why I am saying all this is so that we come to some understanding of what the word fear means, because in English, and I assume in Spanish also, it has many different meanings. So when we hear Buddha's teachings and we hear about fear, it's very often in the context of to cultivate fear of death so that it wakes us up to practice the Dharma, or cultivate fear of samsara so that we have the aspiration to be free of it. When we hear the word fear in those two situations, we often think of our English or Spanish meaning of fear, and how we, when we are afraid, how we usually feel, okay? And usually when we use the word fear, we're talking about a panicked fear where you're terrified of something that may happen or is in the process of happening. So it has this aspect of being terrified and panicked and out of control. Okay. So yes, that's one kind of fear, but that's when they talk about having fear of death or fear of samsara, they're not talking about that kind of fear. Okay. What they really mean is, and I've changed this in prayers now, is it means danger. Okay. So to be aware of the danger of dying without having practiced the Dharma, to be aware of the dangers that are present in samsara so that we want to get out of it. So an awareness of danger doesn't mean that we have to be panicked and freaked out and terrified and hysterical. Okay. It's kind of like when you merge on the highway. Okay. When you're merging on a highway, are you aware of the danger? Yeah, I hope so, because there's other cars zooming by. So you're aware of the danger. But when you're driving your car and merging on the highway, you aren't panicked, you aren't terrified. There's just an awareness that, oh, this is a situation where I have to be especially careful. Okay, so here we see two meanings of fear: the freaked out one and the one that's an awareness of danger. Okay, so the one that is an awareness of a legitimate danger, that one is very helpful to our lives. Okay, if we were marching on the freeway and we weren't aware of any danger, and so we were talking to our friends and holding a cell phone and holding something to drink and munching on some chips and driving at the same time, never even thinking that there's other cars around, that would be quite stupid. Yeah. So that kind of awareness of danger is realistic at that moment, but it doesn't mean we have to be freaked out about the whole thing. Okay. The kind of fear that I suspect, when you ask me to talk about fear and anxiety, I suspect that kind of fear is the one where you're tense and you're terrified and your mind is going blah, 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 and you don't know what to do and like that. Okay, so that's what I'm assuming when the fear that's the title of the talk. Okay, so I want us to be clear about what we're talking about here. Yeah, so that's fear. Then anxiety. Yeah. So we have three things. We have worry and anxiety and fear. And they all have some quality together, but there's also different nuances in each one. The quality that I think worry and anxiety and fear all have is that the object that they're thinking about is something that has not happened. Okay. So people are afraid, they're anxious about, they are worried about something that has not happened, that they're afraid or anxious may happen in the future. Okay. But very often when we're anxious and fearful, yeah, we're not in a fearful situation at all, but rather our mind is going in the future and writing some kind of horror story in which yo is the biggest star of the whole thing. Okay. So here we see, fear, anxiety, worry. They're concerned with something that hasn't happened. Yeah. That's in the future. These things, these emotions usually happen when we're not in the situation itself, although they may arise leading up to that situation, but usually not in the situation itself. And they all concern yo. It's all about yo, 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 yo. Okay. So when you think about it, think about one of the things you get anxious about. Yeah. Maybe you're worried about somebody at work or one of your friends talking bad about you behind your back and ruining your reputation. And if that happens at work, you may lose your job. Or if it, one person in your social group says things to other people behind your back and your reputation goes down, then, that may affect your social life. Yeah. Okay. But none of that is happening now. Okay. Let's say that you're worried about those things right now. Yeah. Are those things happening now? No. Where are you now? Yeah. I think most of you are in your home. Yeah. Or someplace. Are you safe right now? Yeah. Is anything bad happening to you right now? No. Everything is okay. You're safe. You're with people you can trust. Nothing is harming you right now. But you see how our mind is making up a story about the future. And we don't know if that story will ever happen or if it's even going to be true, because it's all made up in our mind. Okay. So we take one small thing and we write a drama about it, starring yo. Okay. And if you watch your life, you can see this happen. Yeah. You can see it happen. Let's say you're going into work, you're going to a social event, and somebody there, but that person doesn't say hello to you because maybe they're talking to somebody else, or maybe they're hosting the event, or they're running the meeting or something like that. Yeah. But we walk in, nobody says hello. And we go, uh-oh, nobody said hello to me. Maybe they're all talking about me behind my back. Yeah, and that's why they didn't say hello. Maybe they don't want me at this meeting at all. Okay. Maybe they've already talked to each other and agreed that I should not be here, and they're going to call me aside and tell me to get out of here. And your mind, what is the objective data? Nobody said hello. Did you ask them why they didn't say hello? No. Did you mind read and make up a reason why you thought they didn't say hello? Yes. Do you have any evidence that that reason is true or accurate? No. Does that stop you from getting anxious that everybody is going to ask you to leave? No, it doesn't stop you from getting anxious because your mind is all worked up already. Yo, 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 what's going to happen to me? I don't know what's going to happen to me. This is terrible. Oh, what did I do now? Nothing. Nobody likes me, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And at the end of the day, we wind up exhausted. Yeah. But nothing has happened. Okay. So I think it's very helpful when we get afraid or when we get anxious to just stop, come back to our breath for a minute, and then say, where am I and what is happening now? And when we do that, we realize, nothing significant is happening now. Yeah, I'm safe. I'm fine. Yeah. What is causing me so much misery right now is my mind, and my mind making up a drama starring me. But my drama is a total hallucination. Yeah. But the problem is that I'm writing this drama and I really think it's going to happen. I'm sure it's going to happen. Okay. And then the mind starts spinning. Oh, I went into the meeting and nobody said hello. They've been talking about me behind my back. The boss knows all about this. I'm going to get fired from my job. When I go home and I tell my family I'm getting fired, my family is going to be so upset and so angry. And we don't have a lot of savings right now. And because we don't have a lot of savings, what are we going to do? We won't be able to pay the rent and we're going to be out on the street as beggars. Okay. So in 2 seconds, you went from nothing to, next week, I'm going to be I'm going to be a beggar, in Mexico City because I couldn't pay the rent because I lost my job. I got fired. Huh? Nothing's happened. Okay. So it's very important here to watch our mind and watch the dramas we create, the scenarios we create. Yeah. And then really ask ourselves, is this happening? Okay. And the answer is usually no, it's not happening. Then we ask ourselves, second question, is it likely to happen in the future? Okay. And then we really think about the situation that we're making up. Is it likely to happen in the future? Is it really likely that because people didn't say hello to me when I came in for the meeting that they're all talking bad about me and I'm going to lose my job? No. That isn't likely to happen. People get fired for their job if they make a really big mess up. Have I made a big mess up? No. Why should they fire me? There's no reason. Okay. So we begin to see then that the drama, the horror story that we're making up is, it's not even anything realistic. Our mind is fabricating the whole thing. Then, that's the question. Then the third question is, if by some chance this really happened, would I be totally without resources? Yeah. So, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to lose my job. But if I did, then is it really that bad? Or do I have resources to be able to deal with it? And then we see, oh, okay, missing my salary, we'll have to cut back on what we spend, but that's okay. The family is fine cutting back on what we spend. We do have some savings. Yeah. We can ask for help from our family. There's also government assistance. Yeah. We aren't going to be, in the middle of Mexico City with, our begging bowl. Yeah. There's many things we can do if this kind of thing happened. Okay. And then we realize that actually there are a lot of resources available to us. Some of the resources are external. They're in the community, people we can ask, or, programs in society. And also some of the resources are internal, to have some confidence in ourselves that we can handle difficult situations. That just because a situation may be unexpected or may be, difficult, doesn't mean that I have to fall apart. Yeah. I actually, I have some inner strength. I have confidence. Things in life happen. There are people I can ask for help, and I can manage this situation. Okay. And then we really see that we've been creating, a horror story when there's absolutely nothing. Okay. Communicating. You getting what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's very helpful to be aware of our mind, and when our mind starts spinning out, how we take some small thing and then, we make it enormous. And then emotionally, we become a wreck. And when we're anxious and fearful, we don't think clearly. And so it's difficult to deal with the situation. But if we realize, first of all, there's nothing to be anxious about, that solves the problem immediately. If we do see that, there is a possibility that this happens, then to realize that there's external help, people who can help us, and also that we have our own internal wisdom. We have abilities to deal with different difficult situations. And if we see that and have that confidence, then we see that there's no reason to fall apart and become hysterical. Okay. And then with that kind of calm mind, then it's easier to deal with the situation, if it even happens. Okay. So we save ourselves a lot of misery if we're able to there's one mental factor called introspective awareness. So if we have that mental factor that monitors what is going on in our mind, and if we catch ourselves thinking like this, then we can cut it off very quickly. Yeah. It takes some practice to do, because we're so used to creating these dramas and then believing them that we have to really set up a whole new way of thinking and familiarize ourselves with it. Yeah. And so that whole new way of thinking is to observe when our mind is writing horror stories, to cut it off, and then to apply one of the three antidotes that I just described to you. Okay. And as we do that, then we gain more and more confidence that we can handle situations and that we can tell the difference between what is likely to happen and what is just my mind, making stuff up. Okay. Because this is our self-centered mind. Our self-centered mind is the one that makes up all these stories. And our stories are about ourselves or about somebody that we're very close to, who we care a lot about. Yeah. You don't make up these kind of stories about strangers. Yeah. And you don't worry about negative things that are going to happen to people you don't like. Yeah. So it's all just our self-centered thought, focused on ourselves and on the people that we play favorites with, the people that we're close to. Okay. So making some sense? So these kinds of things where we don't see the situation accurately, but we jump to conclusions and make up stories, it happens very frequently in our lives. Yeah. People can say one small thing and we take and twist it and we're off and running. Okay. So it really takes a lot of introspective awareness to be aware of what's going on in our mind and to say, time to cut it. Okay. So one of the things people often worry about is their kids. Yeah. Do you worry about your kids? Mm-hmm. So your kids may be adults already, but you still worry about them. I remember when my dad was 60 something and my grandma, who was 80 something, reminded him to put on a sweater so he didn't catch cold. It's like, wait a minute, Grandma, he's 60 years old. Yeah, you don't need to worry about him like that. Yeah, but people tend to focus on their kids. They're very attached to their kids and then worry about their kids. Oh, so much. Are they going to, will this happen to them? Is that happening? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? Who are the friends they hang out with? Why can't they get a job? Are they doing okay in school? Are they riding the bus? Why are they out so late at night? You can take anything and worry. Yeah. And in the process of that, you make your own mind quite miserable. And you might become annoying to your children. Yeah. Because it's quite annoying as when you're a child, and especially if you're an adult child, and your parents are still trailing you. When are you going to get married? When are you going to have a baby? When are you going to do this? Have you done that? And all this stuff. And you're just like trying to live your life, and your parents are worried all the time. Okay. If you are a parent like that, chill out. Okay. For the sake of your children, actually, for the sake of having a good relationship with your children. Because if you are always nervous and worried about them and always calling them and are they okay and asking them this and that question about their life, at a certain point, your kids are going to get fed up. if they're adults and they're going to just say, we're adults, mom and dad, get off of our back. So it's better with adult kids. You did your job as a parent. Okay. Your job as a parent was number one, to keep them alive. Yeah. Because then when they were babies and infants and toddlers, they couldn't take care of themselves. So you did that, or you arranged for somebody else to do that. Okay. So that's first job as a parent. Second job as your parent is you try and help your children learn about how people operate, how society works, what are good manners to relate to other people, how to be reliable, how to check out situations to see if you should go forward or not. So, you try and teach your kids how to make good decisions. Yeah. Can you control your kids? Yeah. Can you control what your kids do? Hello. Yeah. No, you can't control what your kids do. Yeah. You might think, well, when they're 5 years old or 3 years old, I can pick them up. Yeah. But can you control what they think? No. Yeah. You can be a good example for your kids. You can talk to your kids. Yeah. It's very good to make sure that there are other adults that your kids can talk to if they need some advice besides you. Because sometimes the relationship is so close that your kids don't want to talk to the parents. Yeah. You may remember your teenage years when you didn't want to talk to your parents, maybe. Yeah, so you make sure from when they're very young children that there's other adults and that they can develop their own relationship with these other adults so that they can ask for help when they need it. Yeah. But as as a parent, you've done your job and you can't control what happens to them. Yeah. They have to make use of all the tools that you've taught them. Yeah. And they're responsible for their own actions. So you have to kind of let go, and wish them well. And when they ask for help, give help. Yeah. But not be what they call a helicopter parent. A parent who, how a helicopter is always just above, going, looking at everything. Yeah, you don't want to be like that with your kids. Okay. Now, when your kids are little, of course, you can intervene more easily with their lives. If they're running out in the middle of the street when they're 3 years old, you can go and pick them up. Okay, and bring them into safety. But when they're 23 years old, so you can't just go and pick them up. Yeah, and they have to learn how to be responsible. So you and as a parent, your job, yeah, is to relax. Okay. Your job, if you want to have a good relationship with your kids, you've got to relax. Yeah. And if they get themselves in trouble, then they need to figure out how to get themselves out of trouble. And it's not necessarily a horrible thing, because letting them figure out how to solve their own problems can be a way to help them mature. Yeah. If they ask for advice, give advice. Yeah. Or help them talk to the other adults that they prefer to talk about. Yeah. To talk to. But as a parent, you just have to trust them. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a story about that. So I knew somebody who told me her son, when he was in his teenage years, he was just running around. He would often go out with his friends. He wouldn't come back until late. And, she didn't know if he was taking drugs or what the story was, what was going on. But a few times she would get a call from the police saying, we picked your son up at a park or somewhere. And, we had to arrest him for, loitering or, something. He was doing something. And you need to come to the court and either take, pay bail for him or, do something because you're the person he put down as the reference. So this mother told me that, there were several times where her son was getting arrested like that. And like I said, he was in his teenage years. And so she would go every time to the court and say to the judge, oh, he's my son and he lives at home and I'll watch him and he won't get into any more trouble. And maybe she would pay the fine for him. Yeah. And then he would go home. And then it was okay for a little while. And then he would start, staying out late with his friends and doing this whole thing, and he'd get arrested again. Okay, so you got the scene. So one time it happened again, and she went to the courthouse, and the judge said, do you want to pay the fine and take him home? And she looked at the judge, and he was in the room at that time. And she said to the judge, I cannot handle my son anymore. You keep him. And left him at juvenile court, and he had to go to the juvenile jail. He didn't come home. Okay. Eventually, he cleared up the situation. He paid the fine himself or whatever. Yeah. He got out. But later on, he said to his mother, you did the right thing in not taking me home that last time. Yeah. Because until you just let me stay at the juvenile detention center, until that point, I had no awareness, of what I was doing and how it was hassling other people. I had no awareness of the possible consequences I would have to face. And so he told his mother, I grew up a lot because you didn't bail me out on that time. Okay. So I thought this was a remarkable situation because, the mother at that point, she had it. She said, I can't control him, and I'm sure that, of course, she wanted the best for him. Parents always want the best for their kids. But what could she do? He wasn't doing his part. Yeah. So when she just said, okay, you did this, you're at the juvenile detention center, then he really woke up and learned from that situation. Okay. So you can see she wasn't worried. She wasn't anxious. She wasn't fearful. She just knew at that moment, there's nothing more I can do to help him. And now he has to learn from his own experience. And he did, fortunately. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes we encounter situations like that where we really care a lot about somebody, we can see that they're going down the slippery slope and getting into trouble. Yeah, we try to help them, and sometimes we can't. Yeah, and they have to just experience the result themselves, and then hopefully they learn from it. So if I can give a really drastic situation, I don't think this happens quite so often to people, but because I do prison work, yeah. So one guy that I was talking to, he had a real drug and alcohol problem. And I'm sure that, that just kind of was really awful for his parents. And he, was often sent, instead of going to prison, he was sent to a drug rehab facility. But he only stayed there for a short while, and then he left and he got back into drugs again. And he told me, that if you have a problem with drugs, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, you have to hit rock bottom in your life before you decide you're going to change. And he told me that that was really true in his case. Yeah, when they assigned him to go to drug rehab, the court assigned him to drug rehab. He said he didn't have the motivation to really become clean because he hadn't really hit rock bottom. But when he hit rock bottom and he realized, I'm going to be sitting in prison for a while because of my behavior, then he knew he had to change. And that's when he got in a drug rehab program that really helped him deal with this problem, and he came clean. Okay, so in situations like that, we look at the people that we care about, that we're attached to. Yeah, we want the best for them, but again, we cannot control it. Yeah, we can't control. And so again, rather than let our mind make up all sorts of horror stories, yeah, do what we can and then relax, because we cannot control everybody on this planet. I mean, most of the time we can't even control our own mind, can we? Yeah. Can you control your own mind? All it takes is trying to watch your breath for 5 minutes, and you realize you have no control over your own mind. So how are you going to control other people? So we can wish them well. And certainly as Buddhist practitioners, we want to do that. We wish other people well. And we may do the taking and giving meditation, imagining taking on their misery and giving them our happiness. But the reality is that we can't control. So what I'm saying is that so much of our mental confusion, our mental torment, is created by our own afflictions. Yeah. And when you really get into your Dharma practice and have a meditation practice and begin observing your mind, you can begin to see how our mind creates our misery. And then when we see that, yeah, if we create our misery, we can also be the ones who stop it. And we're so fortunate to have met the Buddha's teachings, to have learned the different antidotes about how to deal with different situations, and especially how to reduce our self-centeredness. we're so fortunate for having met those teachings. So if we practice them, then we can definitely change. Yeah. And do you notice what's interesting about how to change? What was one of the words I kept saying as antidotes for worry and fear and anxiety? What word did you keep hearing? Relax, didn't you? Just relax. Stop doing the drama. Yeah. Come back, breathe, wish people well, smile at them, extend whatever kindness you can to whoever is in front of you, and then just relax. Because I think so much of our problem is our refusal to accept reality. Yeah, reality is there, and we say, I don't like it, I don't want it, go away. But when something is there and it's happened already, you say, I don't want it, go away. Yeah, so what? Nothing's even going to change. Okay. So first of all, if we accept, for example, that we can't control people, then when things happen, and sure enough, we can't control them, then we relax. Instead of getting so tight and nervous, and I'm so afraid what this person's going to do, and they're going to harm themselves. If you can do something to prevent it, do that. If you can't, then there's no sense in getting all upset about it. Okay, but do what you can to prevent harm. But if you can't, then what are you going to do? Another kind of reality that we don't like, that we tend to ignore, is change. Okay. We like things to be predictable. And if there's change, we want to be the one who makes the change and who controls the change. Okay. But change is, we live in, our whole nature is changeable. We're changing all the time. Everything and everybody around us is changing all the time. Okay. And so very often things happen that are not expected. Yeah. Very often, don't they? Yeah. And we're left like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? I wasn't anticipating this. Okay. But again, just to learn, okay, I didn't anticipate this happening. It wasn't a change that I expected, but it's happening and I accept it. I have to accept it because it's reality. Yeah, because the more I reject reality and say, I don't like it, it shouldn't be this way. Yeah. Is reality going to change because we don't like it? No. What is. So our task is to adjust ourselves and make it into a good situation. And that's where the Buddha taught so many examples of taking adversity into the path, transforming adversity into the path to awakening. Okay. So when things change and we don't expect them to change, rather than get all fearful about it, okay, it's changed. And there's going to be new possibilities. What are some of the new possibilities that may actually be better than the situation I had before? And what are creative ways that I can approach this new situation? Yeah. Because in any new situation, I mean, we could be very creative and think of different things about how to handle it. Okay. So just, again, relax, accept that that thing happened, work with it. Yeah. And you may find that it actually turns out much better in the long term, and that you've learned a lot in the process. Okay, so I've talked for a while. We can open it to questions and comments now, if you like.
I have a question from Caroline that says that I often experience a lot of fear and anxiety, so I'm wondering where they come from. She continues, in Shantideva's A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way, in the chapter on patience, there is a verse which states something like anger finds its fuel in getting what we don't want or not getting what we want. Would you say that anxiety, worry, and fear receive their fuel from the mind imagining we're getting something we don't want, or imagining not getting what we want?
It certainly seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah, that when we want something and we get afraid we're not going to get it, or there's something we don't want and the problem comes to us anyway. Yeah, or we're afraid that the problem is going to come to us. It hasn't even come yet. Or even it comes, then we're afraid of the future of it. So, if we ask, where does anxiety and fear come from? Yeah. On that kind of level, looking at our mind, we could see, not getting what we want or getting what we don't want. We can also see that there's going to be karma involved too, because depending the situations that we encounter or that we may encounter in this life, yeah, are often influenced by actions that we did in the past. And so if those actions weren't purified, then we could find ourselves in that kind of situation in this life and get or anxious about it, something like that. Okay.
All right, thank you. I also have another question, and the question is, how can we help anxious people to relax?
I get so many questions when I give a talk on anger, like next week, talking on anger. Then people will ask, how can I help my friend with their anger? Yeah. And everybody, they're so concerned about their friends. How can I help my friends who are anxious? How can I help my friends who are angry? How can I help my friends who are so attached to things? Well, one thing is that when I'm giving the talk, if your friend is in the audience, then I'm talking to your friend and they'll learn from the talk. If they're not in the audience, you happen to be. So maybe it's your anger and your anxiety that you need to be concerned with, not so much the other person's anger and anxiety. Okay, because it is so easy to see other people's problems. Yeah. And we have so much compassion and we want to save them from their problems. But the only person we can really change is this one. Yeah. So how to help your anxious friend be less anxious? Practice yourself being less anxious. Yeah. Try and be less anxious yourself. If your friend starts spinning out and getting anxious, don't join in the story. Just sit there and nod. If you join in the story and you say, oh yeah, that really could happen, and then this could happen, that could happen, and the same might happen to my family, and then this and that and the other thing, then you're just intensifying your friend's anger or your friend's anxiety. Yeah. So work with this one, because this is the one that when you change, then your change will influence the people around you. They'll see it.
Good. All right, I have a comment from Harold from Peru. Harold says that he's sending love and greetings from the Sangha in Peru, fortifying or strengthening the connection between Puerto Rico, Ganden Shedrup Ling, and Venerable Children. Then he also has a question, and he says, how can we help someone manage a death process that usually generates a lot of anxiety thanks to being something totally unknown?
So how to help somebody who wasn't expecting to die?
I have no idea.
I need more information or could you reword the question for me here?
Okay, maybe the question says, how can we help someone manage the process of death that usually generates so much anxiety?
Okay, if they're Buddhist, it depends so much on your relationship with the person, first of all. It's hard for me to give advice that's going to apply to every situation. So I can give you a few suggestions, but everything is going to really depend on the individual situation. If it's somebody that well that is Buddhist, then talk to them about the Dharma, remind them of the Buddha, remind them of the teacher, read aspirational prayers, and tell them to go to the Pure Land or to take a precious human life. If it's somebody that has been ill for a long time and in the process of dying for a long time, then help them get their affairs in order before they start actively dying. So make sure that they have a living will, that they have power of attorney, that they've written a regular will about their possessions, who's going to get what, that they have all these things figured out in their mind. And then, if you can encourage them to forgive anybody who has harmed them, to really let go of that anger so that they don't die angry, and to apologize to anybody that they need to apologize to. In other words, help them clear away everything from this life, to make peace with everything in this life, so that when they die, they can focus on having a virtuous state of mind, thinking about bodhicitta, contemplating emptiness, and so on. Okay. If it's somebody that you don't know very well, or somebody who belongs to a different religion, if you know what religion they belong to, then use the vocabulary of their religion. If you know that their religion is something that gives them comfort, use that vocabulary. If you don't know what religion they are, then just talk to them about having a kind heart and to rejoice at all the kindness that they received, that they gave to other people while they were alive, and to, encourage them to make prayers and aspirations that whatever happens after death, they can increase their kind heart and share their kind heart with all other living beings. So you're just basically, giving them a Dharma overview using secular language, encouraging them to have a virtuous state of mind.
All right. I have another question, and the question is, to share my love and kindness with others generates a lot of anxiety because it makes me feel vulnerable. What do you recommend as an antidote?
What are you afraid of? If you share your kindness, are you afraid that those people are going to reject you? Are you afraid that they don't reciprocate those same feelings towards you? What is the fear of? Yeah, because if we really have an open heart, then we're not thinking about how the other person is going to react. And feeling vulnerable comes only when we think how others are going to react to what we're doing. Yeah. When we have a compassionate heart and we just give, we're not thinking about, are they going to like me? Are they not going to like me? Am I going to be accepted? Will they praise me? Because all that kind of thinking is our self-centered thought. Okay. So we really need to practice the Buddha's teachings that are an antidote to the self-centered thought. Yeah. So that in these situations, we can, again, relax.
All right. I don't have any more questions on the chat. I do have a comment of my own. In that combination of fear and anxiety, can we add anticipation? Because in my case, fear and anxiety begin with anticipation. So I invite you to dinner, to my house, for example, and the week before I start thinking, what if she doesn't come? What if she's late? What if the electricity goes out? What if she doesn't like what I cook for her? So all this anticipation, which I know it's totally imaginary, has no real basis, creates the fear and the anxiety.
I would say your anticipation is just thinking about what could happen. And your response to those thoughts is anxiety and thinking more about this, going round and around and around and around and around.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. And driving yourself totally nuts. Okay. And if you talk about this to your friend, you're also driving your friend nuts. Okay. So, all these kinds of fears and anxieties, just to say, I mean, this is what I do. Okay. I'm anxious. Will they be late? If they're late, we deal with it. Okay. Will they not? They won't like what I'm cooking. Well, I think what I'm cooking is okay. If they don't like it, then I'll make something else. We can make a salad or go out to dinner. Yeah. In other words, all these problems that you're anticipating, there's a solution to every single one of them. Yeah. And it's not that the solutions are really complicated. They're usually pretty simple. What if they don't come? I invited them to my house for dinner. What if they don't come? Then I'll eat the whole thing myself, or I'll share it with a neighbor. If they don't come, they don't come. What to do? You know, is it likely that they're not going to come? Well, I would think that they would probably call me and tell me first. If they don't call me, something probably came up. It's okay. I'm going to sit down and eat. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, with each thought that your mind comes up with, and think, okay, what's the solution to that? Yeah. Yeah. If they don't like what I cut, then what to do? That's their choice. You know, or is it going to ruin the friendship? Well, if it ruins the friendship, then they probably weren't a very good friend to start with, because that's such a small thing. And if they ruined the friendship because of that small thing, it wasn't a real
friendship.
strong friendship to start with.
All right.
So I don't need to worry about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We have no more questions. Let's see. Make sure. Oh yeah, this one.
Okay.
But anxiety is considered a mental illness due to chemical imbalances. Sometimes medication is needed too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And if that's the case with the kind of anxiety you have, take the meds. But you can also use the antidotes that I spoke of. Yeah. It isn't meds or, you know, the Buddhist antidotes. You can do both.
Okay. Harold from Peru says, thank you for answering the question perfectly.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm glad that was useful.
Yeah. There's another question. What about a panic attack? How do we deal with that?
First of all, I would talk to your doctor or a therapist about that, because they have some different skills and different knowledges about that. But I would say, you know, if we just start getting panicky and tight, you know, the same thing. It's like, is there really a threat right now? Yeah. Is there really a threat that I have to panic about? And then our mind might say, oh, yes, you know, the airplane's going to go down. Well, maybe the airplane is still on the ground and it hasn't left. It isn't in the air yet. Yeah. Because a lot of times, I mean, this is the way our mind works. It anticipates and makes up stories, and yeah. And so often too, okay, you're flying in the plane and you're in turbulent weather. Okay. I've been in plenty of flights with turbulent weather. Okay, I sit there. Yeah, I imagine the Buddha. I do some recitations. I recite some mantra. You know, and I figure, oh, okay, if the plane goes down, I'm going to die sometime. At least this is giving me some time to remember the Buddha, generate bodhicitta. Yeah. And because we're all going to die sometime, right? So what use is there to get all hysterical about it? When it's time to die, we say goodbye and we die. Again, if we are not accepting the reality, I don't want to die. I want to stay alive. I don't like this. Why can't the doctor give me 10 million medicines and cure me? If you get like that before you die, is that going to help your death process? Mm-hmm. Is that going to help your rebirth? No. if we're in the process of dying, then we just accept it. We work with the Dharma, put our mind in a virtuous state, contemplate emptiness, contemplate compassion and bodhicitta. Relax. Okay.
One other question. This will be the last question. Okay. As you very well said, mothers always worry about their children, especially when they are teenagers, and they are they have risky attitudes and do not take precautions in a society where young people are in danger. What to do?
I already answered it. Yeah, you do what you can to help, and you don't do what you can't do.
Yeah. And relax.
And relax. Yeah. Because what are you going to do? Kind of call your kid every 10 minutes to make sure they're okay? Are you going to hire a detective to spy on all their friends? I mean, that's not going to help the situation. So,
Yep.
you have to have the confidence. You did your job as a parent, and kids come in with their own karma. So as a parent, you try and help your child as much as you can. And sometimes they're receptive and sometimes they aren't. What can you do? Scream at them, holler at them. Yeah, that's not going to make them listen to you more. Sometimes you just have to love them and let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah, just love them and let it be. Okay, so we'll do the dedication of merit now. So your homework is to think about the talk between now and next Monday. And don't stop thinking about it on next Monday. No, Wednesday. Sorry.
Wednesday.
Keep thinking after that too. Okay. Yeah. And then try and put it into practice as much as you can.